Okay, everybody, thank you very much. We've got a great audience today. Well done, you. I mean, it's all that's that promotion work, John, by that guy over there who just sat down. Pete, who was our speaker last week. We always try to tell you what's coming on. There's a seat on the front row here, look. You won't, and a cushion. You know, you won't get jumped upon by the magician to do anything special. I don't know. No, just a thank you first of all to Pete for his talk last week. Those that were here, it was brilliant, odd geography. But when we announced John's talk here for today, he said, "Oh, I've been there," and he gave us a good lead up into it. So I'll just introduce them to each other, and they can chat afterwards. But having said that, it's great to welcome John Hayward back again. For those that are interested, I always say it because we have a connection in a way through our camera club. John is the son of the founder of the Windlesham and Camberley Camera Club, which is going now, 92 years, 91, 92 years, and the memory hangs on, and he's there to prove it. So I'm really, really chuffed, and he's got his good lady here as well, Maureen in the back there. So thank you for that. And what I didn't do last week, in fact, was to introduce Peter's wife. She was here. I didn't realise she was here. Here she is. Hello. John, it's over to you. We want to go down the iron ore line, as you call it, the Northern line. Thank you. I'll go and sit down.
Thank you, Mike. The title, as you may have seen on downstairs, was the northernmost northern line, but I like to refer to it as the iron ore line. I'm going to tell you about the most northerly public railway in the whole of the world. It's further north in northern Sweden than the line, which some of you may know, which goes from Canada up to Churchill. But that one is not quite above the Arctic Circle. This one is all but 60 miles above the Arctic Circle. I'm going to tell you the history of it, how it came about, what it does, and what its future is. Because there's a huge future. Things have changed in the last 10, 15 years or so tremendously in relation to it. So it's all about northern Sweden, which included Norway at that point, because Norway at the end of the 19th century was still a part of Sweden and didn't become independent until 1907. And I'll deal with what happened on independence because it affects the railway line as well. The 18th century, a lot of well-known explorers looked at northern Sweden to see what its natural assets were, and included Linnaeus, the famous botanist. They all went up above the Arctic Circle and rambled around and looked, and they found massive iron ore deposits in the area of Gällivare, or I think the right pronunciation is Gällivare, and Kiruna, north of the Arctic Circle. There's Gällivare, and there's Kiruna. How to get the iron ore out was the problem. No railways in those days, no ports. Nearest port was Luleå on the Gulf of Bothnia, over 100 miles away. And Luleå was inoperable in the winter because some of you may well know that the Gulf of Bothnia at the top end freezes for 6 months of the year and no boats in and no boats out. It's only open for 6 months in the warmer months of the year. So to start with, getting the iron ore out was by horse and cart in small quantities, taking it all the way to the coast from Gällivare in Kiruna to Luleå in the summer, sticking it on boats, and off it went to other parts of Sweden, and it may have gone to Germany and Poland as well, but not very far. By the end of the 1870s, the Swedish government decided that they needed to be more efficient so far as getting the iron ore out was concerned. So they built a railway. There's Narvik way up the top on the Norwegian Sea. There is Luleå on the top of the Gulf of Bothnia, with various places in between, including Kiruna and Gällivare down here. And the railway was built to Luleå. But that only operated for about 30 years because they still had the problem, no transport from Luleå in the winter because of the ice on the Gulf of Bothnia. The Swedish government decided they'd got to do a lot better. And because they were in charge of what was then Norway, they thought of Narvik as the outgoing port on the Norwegian Sea. It was originally called Victoria Haven, and it got renamed when Norway became independent. They decided they'd build a railway from Gällivare to Narvik. It would run throughout the year. Narvik was ice-free. They'd be able to load up all carriers in Narvik and export them to wherever they wanted them to go. They advertised for navvies to come and build the railway at the beginning of the 20th century in 1900. They reckoned it was going to take 3 years to build. They decided to pay quite high wages, higher than normal wages in Sweden. They thought they would get a whole load of Irish navvies, needless to say, but they didn't. The navvies came from Sweden, Norway and Denmark, mostly from Scandinavia. There are a few Irish, but not many. They were hired to work for 3 years solid. And I mean that, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and throughout the winter, every day in the winter when the temperature would drop to minus 20 centigrade or even worse. And in the dark as well, of course, because it's dark at the top there for at least 3 months, 4 months of the year. And during that time, the railway was built, single track, all the way from Gällivare via Kiruna, all the way to Narvik. They established 2 bases for where the navvies could live, small towns in other words. One of them was on Torneträsk on the Swedish side of the border. The other one's at the head of the Narvik field down in what's now Norway. And you can still see the remains of both places. The one in Sweden, this is the picture of, the ruins are still there. They're all labelled up. You can walk around for free all the way round and see what's what. And needless to say, they had to build a cemetery to go with it because there were diseases in the camps, typhoid and diphtheria in particular, of which some of the navvies died. And you can walk up to the cemetery. It's above the village, right by the side of the railway. And if you look at the graves with the crosses, all the names are Scandinavian. There are very, very few non-Scandinavian names amongst them. It's quite interesting about the village. It tells you what's what. There's a church there. Needless to say, there were shops. I have to say, there was even a brothel. And the statue to the navvies was erected in Kiruna at the station. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. When the railway was finished, it was opened in 1903. Single track. One of the constructions was this girder bridge on the Norwegian side of the border, which has got an interesting history. It's no longer used. As you can see, it looks very fragile. The Norwegians got the wind up in the 1930s that the Russians were going to invade them. It didn't happen, but nonetheless, the Norwegians put a load of explosives on that bridge, ready to blow it up in case the Russians arrived. They didn't blow it up even when the Germans arrived, as I'll come to later. It's still there, but it's not used anymore. I think the explosives have been taken away. That's the station at the top on the border between Sweden and Norway, showing the old trains, which were steam trains, of course, in those days. And there was public transport on it as well. It just wasn't carrying iron in wagons. There was public transport. You could hop on the train at Narvik and come down into Sweden and vice versa. It was very successful right from the word go, but it was successful on two other fronts that the Swedish government hadn't thought about. Two things happened. One was they found that delivering mail from Norway into Sweden and from Sweden into Norway was 4 days quicker than allowing it to go all the way down the Norwegian coast, right round the bottom and up to Oslo and across to Stockholm, or going to Stockholm as well. 4 days quicker. So it was used for mail, and it soon became apparent that it was a tourist attraction. And the tourist attraction is on the top bit of the line between Narvik and the Swedish border, which goes up the Narvik field, climbs to 3,000 feet, and the view, and if you travel on the line, do sit on the left-hand side, you won't see anything on the right-hand side, and vice versa if you come back down. The view going up the Narvik field is absolutely fantastic. I thoroughly recommend it. And then it comes down gradually on the Swedish side, much lesser gradient, for 100 miles to Kiruna. The mountains go up to 8,000 feet with snow on them most of the year. And the end bit of the line, of course, there's plenty of snow on it in the winter and plenty of darkness as well, because for 3 months of the year it's dark. So that's the start of the line. Let's have a look at, I think we got the wagon. That's the port at Narvik during the 30s, to show you what the construction was like. The trains operated every 2 hours. They'd be filled up from the iron and wine. Every 2 hours a train left with the iron ore in the wagons and was taken to Narvik, unloaded and taken back up the line. The engine just moved from the front to the back to the front of the train and took it back again. And it took about 4 or 5 days to load an iron ore carrier. The noise in Narvik, if you stop in a hotel, you do notice it, I'm afraid. It's still quite noisy as a port. And there's a view of some of the wagons with a diesel electric machine pulling them after the war. The view in the background of the mountains, that's known as the Lap Gate. It's a tremendous bit of scenery in the distance. The wagons, the engines pull 52 trucks weighing 100 tons each in their cargo of iron ore. That's over, if I make it right, that's over 52,000 tons every 2 hours. Yeah. I'll tell you about the iron ore in a minute. There's the trucks at the mine in Kiruna. The railway and the trains that carry the iron ore are all owned by the Swedish government. They set up a company called LKAB right from the start. I've got a book you can come and have a look at later, but that's the name of the Swedish company. It's the biggest company in Sweden. Am I on your way, sir? Yeah. I'll go and stand over here. It's the biggest company in Sweden. It's bigger than IKEA. It's bigger than Volvo, and it's almost as rich as you'll find out as the National Trust Fund in Norway. When the LKAB is still there 125 years later. The railway line's still running. I'll tell you about it as well. LKAB has gone throughout the period. When Norway got its independence, shortly after 5 years after the railway was opened, the Norwegian government undertook to look after the track and the trains at Narvik port at their expense for the rest of its history. So there was good cooperation between Sweden and Norway at that point in time. And there's no problem with crossing the border up at the top, either on the train or by road, which is right alongside it. There just is no customs in operation at all. You just go straight over the border. And it's been so ever since. That's the mine headquarters in Kiruna in Sweden. The mine at Kiruna is the second biggest iron ore mine in the world. The biggest one is at Duluth on the south side of Lake Superior in the USA. It's the biggest one in Europe. The mine at Kiruna is subterranean. The mine at Gällivare is open cast at the top, and some of it's subterranean as well. About 15 years ago, I think 2009, my wife and I decided to go down the mine at Kiruna. It's open to the public. What you do is you get in a small minibus, not a lift, small minibus, and it goes round and round and down, and it goes down about 1,000 feet, where you hop out and you get shown all the bits and pieces about the mine. There's a tunnel, doesn't lead to the face. Very, very interesting. It's over an hour long, the whole trip. You don't see the mining these days. It used to be mined by hand, as you would expect, years ago, but it's all mined now by laser beam. Very, very modern indeed. There's no dust flying around. You can't tell from walking on the tunnels. This is about 1,000 feet down. The diggings at the point when we went down the mine were at about 1,500 feet, 500 metres down. Let's come to the last war. The railway line operated up until 1940. And then, unfortunately, the Norwegians invaded Norway. The Germans invaded Norway, let's get it right. And they occupied Narvik in particular because they wanted to get a hold of the iron ore so they could continue manufacturing armaments with steel. The British were not at all happy with the occupation on two grounds. One, because they was trying to guard the port of Narvik and get the iron ore out in the summer. They couldn't use Luleå in the winter anyway. And two, the British decided to send a task force up to Narvik in April and May of 1940 to see if they could deal with the Germans and stop them. It was a very indecisive Battle of Narvik. There were two in the different months. Both sides lost quite a few ships and troops as well. I'll let you come up and read the text later. That's at the end of the Narvik field. That's a postcard showing two German wrecks still there 40, 50 years later. And that's in the Narvik field. That's still there, I can assure you that. My wife took a photograph. That's a German cruiser that was sunk during the Battle of Narvik, and it's still there. They haven't used it for scrap at all. And you can, on the little boat we were on the field, it took us right up close to it so we could actually see it. Amazing. There were casualties. The German sailors, soldiers, English sailors, there were some because we lost 1 or 2 boats as well, all buried in the same churchyard in Narvik. It's about a mile out of the town. It's difficult to get to other than by taxi. There's no bus goes up there, but we've been there. And they're all buried alongside each other. It doesn't make a scrap of difference whether they're German or English at all. That's the German armaments industry, which of course the steel was made from the iron ore. I'll come to this in a minute. After the war, the whole of the railway line was started again. They could use Narvik, so the exporting started again. But there was a lot of bad feeling, some of you may well remember, between Britain and Sweden after the war. We, particularly the British government, was totally upset that the Swedes retained their neutrality throughout the last war, and they exported iron ore to Germany in the summer down the Gulf of Bothnia, needless to say. It lasted a long time. It didn't disappear immediately. Events after the war, the railway line was electrified, overhead electric, and overhead electric engines put in. Sometimes as just a pulling train, sometimes as one at the front and one at the back. But they've stuck to 52 trucks, and they've stuck to 100 tons in each of them. But what they have done is they've got very sophisticated, the Swedes. They decided they wanted to make more money out of it. So they do the smelting of the iron ore on the spot in Kiruna and Narvik into pellets, small pellets. And I have to apologise, I've got a sample back at home, and I was going to bring them there. I've forgotten entirely about them. But anyway, they're small pellets, they're no bigger than that. And they load the trucks up with them. And of course, when they're exported, the buyers all around the world have not got to smelt the iron ore at all. They're in business. You can walk along the track, anywhere along the track, and you could pick up these pellets because they fall off the trucks.
Is it still single track?
Yes. Now, there have been some huge changes. One huge change and one still to come with the railway line and the iron ore in the last 15 years or so. That shows the iron ore shaft at Kiruna, and it goes down into the earth. It's not straight. It goes down at 70 degrees towards the east. It's quite thick, but by the time they got down to 1,500 feet, when my wife and I last went, they decided to start with that it was going to be very dangerous to go further and expensive. There was the likelihood of subsidence in the town of Kiruna, where all the miners and the people engaged by LKAB lived, and they would have to close it. That was the original thinking. And then they had the bright idea, we've got much better mining techniques nowadays. The amount of iron ore left down the bottom here was endless and worth millions. So they decided we'll move the town of Kiruna 3 kilometres to the east. Didn't consult the citizens to start with. It's a town of 25,000 people, roughly the size of Camberley. The proposal was to rehouse all the individuals in concrete steel blocks. Well, that upset the citizens, needless to say. They all lived in smart houses, prefabricated, wood built, nothing to do with concrete at all. And they said no. So the Swedish government, being democratic, we'll have a vote on this. They had a vote of this, and nearly 95% of the inhabitants in Kiruna turned it down. We want our houses to be moved, or we want new ones built in wood, traditionally Swedish. Okay, so LKAB took the very, very important decision to fund the whole move. Now, how much it's cost, I don't know, but it runs into millions. They wanted to move the houses, and that's all right because they're all wooden prefabricated, so they can be moved physically. I think that's an office or a commercial building of some sort, but this is what they've done. There's the mine behind, the town of Kiruna. That's taking one of the larger houses, which is prefabricated wood, and moving it 3 kilometres to the east. The greatest move has been the church. The church is a wooden church, it's very big. And you may have seen on the telly, end of last summer, last year, it took 24 hours to move it 3 kilometres to the east by road. It's the biggest. There's never been a town anywhere in the world that's been moved like this. And if you think of the cost, it's got to be worth LKAB's time to have it done. And that's going on at the present. I've seen in the last few years the town hall's been moved. There's a new public building being moved. The E10 main road has been moved 3 kilometres to the east, and the railway has been moved, and the station has been moved 3 kilometres to the east. And the statue I showed you earlier, the navvies at Kiruna station, that's gone with the station, and there it is on the new station. And it's all going on at present. It should be finished in about 2 or 3 years' time. So it's a tremendous achievement, and the citizens are very happy with what's going on, so far as I've heard. I've not heard any big dissent about it. Sweden's going to benefit in the end as the LKAB is owned by the Swedish government, so it'll get all the profits from the mine, and they're still exporting all over the world. Now you think that's the end of it, and it'll all go on for another few decades. But I don't know whether any of you are aware, in the last 3 or 4 years, large deposits of lithium have been found outside Kiruna. Well, of course, the Swedish government has rubbed its hands and thought, marvellous. We've got the means of getting it out. Yeah. It's right on the doorstep. It's already there. We haven't got to build a railway or anything at all. And the countries of the world which import lithium, the biggest exporter is China, and 1 or 2 of the smaller countries in Africa. And it nearly all goes either to Europe or to America. So the Swedes have got this in the bank, and they'll start developing, I suspect, in the next few years. How they squeeze the lithium into the trains in between the iron ore ones, well, that's their problem. So there you are. That's what I call the Northern Line. That's its history. There were no Red Indians to stop it being built in the first place, different from America. America, they worked 24 hours a day, but they didn't have the winter to contend with. They had daylight all the time. That shows you what was possible. If you'd like to, in a moment, ask me anything you like, and I'll try and answer it. I've got some examples of photographs and details up here of the line itself. this is a Swedish book on the company, the mining company. Lots of photographs in there. Unfortunately, the language is all in Swedish. This is a much more recent book, which deals with the move of Kiruna in the last few years, and there are English sections in there, but there are lots of photographs as well. So there you are. Any questions?
What started your interest in?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Travelling on it.
Pardon?
Travelling on the railway line.
Right, that's what got your eye for all this.
Wife and I have travelled on it about 5 or 6 times,
Right.
in various little short sections at a time, and some a bit longer, over since the year 2000.
Oh, wow.
Right. It's quite a tourist thing now. Isn't
Oh yeah, the first 30 miles up the Narvik field. Where's the gentleman who's been on it? It's incredible.
it? Is it?
It's a real attraction, but it's an attraction in the winter because there is skiing at Abisko, and the scenery at Abisko is tremendous.
There was a programme on TV recently, I think I told you about it, but it's further down the line. I believe it was going through Norway to ended up Bergen. It showed all the scenery like you're describing. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
One of these special journey programmes they do every now and again, you know.
Anyone else?
It says the mining is still going, despite all that, you know, the fear of subsidence. They carried on. They carried on mining
They've carried
anyway.
on.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know if there has been any subsidence
No,
at all,
but
but
that's
the population's been moved from that.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
The
Good.
police station, the fire station, the town hall, all the public buildings have either been moved or vacated,
Incredible.
and a new town built just further down.
Good. Well, thank you, John.
Okay.
He's the man to thank you over there. Look,
Do
yeah.
come and have a look.
Yeah, thank you.
Quite amazing number of differences you never expect to be talked about towns moving or any of the, so many of the things that have come up, and it's really well appreciated. And so, are there any questions? Surely you. That's amazing. That's the first time.
Does Trump know about the lithium?
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yeah, that can help them.
I'm sure the Americans are pleased, but they don't want to get it in from China.
China, no. That's a point. That's a good way of looking at it, I suppose. In a way, yeah, that's a good way of looking at it in that respect. Yeah.
Oh, Trump will be there, don't worry.
Yeah. I know. No, it was really. Just amazing how individuals get a particular interest, like this one here, for example. Graham asked the obvious question: how did you become involved? Well, how, you know, what kicked it all off? When you went on your first one, was that because you'd heard about it, or
I knew about it.
you knew
I
about
knew
it?
about it from school. Was
Right.
I think I did A level on Scandinavia.
Oh, right. Oh, that's interesting. Good.
If you go on the train, and not only travel on the left going up, go in the last car, because you can stand on the platform at the back of the last car. It's open, and you can film away with your camera.
I've done that on the Panama, on the train by the side of the Panama Canal, sort of thing. Yeah, but there's different sort of scenery there, of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, that train must be driving with a list to one side, is it? All on the left-hand side of the train. Great show, thank you.
What does Maureen feel about it, going on those sorts of holidays? Maureen?
Are you as interested, Maureen?
I love it.
Yeah, good.
You're on the spot there, aren't you?
Going down the mine's quite an experience,
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, blimey.
especially when you get down and you don't see a miner at all.
That's a long way down. That going down a spiral as well. No, well, no lift. Yeah. I suppose it's a way out.
I think the iron ore's taken up by lift.
Oh, sure, yeah. Good.
John, I think you said you're not interested in beach holidays. It's the cooler places, isn't it?
No, we do a lot of walking.
Yeah.